let's get down to business. Thanks for coming out tonight.
I wrote me a manual, a step-by-step booklet for you to get.
Oh, I make money moves.
You can't see me, my time is now.
Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of the MassiveJoes Show, Fitness Times Business, a very special edition for you guys today. I'm sitting here in the offices of a company called Compound Solutions in a part of California called Carlsbad, just outside of San Diego here in the US of A. And I'm sitting across from their CEO, a gentleman by the name of Matt Titlow. Matt, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for your time and being a willing participant on the MassiveJoes Show. I'm excited for this podcast because a little bit of background to Compound Solutions for the listeners who may not be aware. Compound Solutions is, and correct me if I'm wrong, an ingredients company effectively in the sports supplement industry. So you guys are responsible for some very, very popular ingredients that are becoming quite widespread in sports supplementation. Ingredients such as teacrine, dynamine, VasoSix, Go BHB, Carb 10. The list goes on and on. I could probably be here for a few minutes listing them off. Yeah. But you guys are the company behind these ingredients that are finding their way into a bunch of different supplements from a bunch of different companies. Right. So I'm excited for this podcast because it's kind of a different topic compared to people that I've interviewed before. I usually interview owners of particular supplement companies, but you kind of sit in this unique space where Compound Solutions is feeding a lot of these ingredients to these different supplement companies. So you have a lot of different touch points within the industry, which makes me very excited because I'm interested to hear, about how all this kind of plays out. But before we get into that, Fitness Times Business, I want to give the listeners background to you, background to Matt Titlow, CEO of Compound Solutions. Where did it all start? Give us a bit of context here. So let's start with the fitness side of things. Where was the seed planted for you, Matt?
I think, man, it's to start from the beginning. Hopefully it's not too boring, but I, just like most of your listeners, I started off playing sports, all sports, all the time, and continue to this day really being a sports fanatic. Frankly, I got sick of running. That was like maybe 10 years old, 11 years old. You're playing soccer, you're running for miles or kilometers, and you're just tired of it. So I ended up, still running, but playing basketball and other sports. Fast forward to, let's say, college, I started lifting weights. Believe it or not, I went to high school. So here it's ninth grade, you're probably 14-ish. And I went to high school at I think it was about 5 feet, 100 pounds. So we're talking, what is that, 40, 42, 45 kilos, something like that. Yeah. I mean, you are wafer thin. I went to then college, so I'm about 18, something like that. I was 6'5", 150 pounds.
Wow.
So, what is that, 70 kilos, 65 kilos, something like that? Yeah. You look almost unhealthy, but that was simply the body type. I started lifting weights in college and literally going all the time with buddies. And I have not had an ounce of natural strength ever in my entire life. Not one. Every pull-up has been earned. Every deadlift, everything has been earned from day one. And obviously you have some people who are, naturally strong. That is not me. That is not me.
You had to work.
I had to work for every damn thing. Yeah. So let's say did that through those 4 years, kept on playing sports after college for some time, but continued to lift weights. During that time, I then went to grad school. So speaking of fitness and business, so I went to grad school after undergrad. I was an MBA at Arizona State and Thunderbird, so I was interested in international business and languages. From there, I got a job here. So that was 15 years ago. I started at Compound Solutions. My father actually started the business. That was 20 years ago that he started. And it was really amino acids and some other ingredients really for like infant formula and things of that sort. So not dedicated to sports. Maybe 14 years ago, I started getting into sports nutrition. I realized that it was growing, that people really weren't paying attention, and that we could. Plus, I was interested for many, many years ago. So that's when I would say I'd say it's about 13, 14 years ago, we started with carnosine beta-alanine. And a lot of people know beta-alanine now. It's in almost every pre-workout in the world. And we built that from, something around 1,000 kilos a year to more than maybe 1 million kilos a year.
So you're saying carnosine beta-alanine was a compound solution ingredient?
We built that.
Wow.
Yes.
I never knew that.
Yeah. So Natural Alternatives still owns that patent.
Yeah.
They were, running literally about 1,000 kilos a year about 13 years ago through EAS. But that was nothing. So, it got in maybe, let's call it 11, 12 years ago into NO Explode. That was me.
BSN, yeah.
Yeah, BSN. That really popularized it. So I always have a little shout out, to NO Explode, kind of like the OG of pre-workouts, but also what helped put, us on the map. I say, that was me, but in fact, hey man, you always have people along the way, right?
Of course.
My dad helped out.
Yep.
A lot of people in my life have helped out, including, the people behind, NO Explode, that helped help me break through. About, maybe 4 or 5 years, maybe 5 years ago, they said, hey, thanks for building it, but, we're going to part ways. So about 4 years ago, we took on T-Cream and some really good people behind that. They're the IP, the intellectual property company behind that. It's called Ortho Nutra. Really, really good people. And I have to always, really give a shout out to those guys for betting on Compound Solutions and betting on me because they trusted a smaller company when they had other bigger companies who could distribute it. But they didn't. They didn't go with those guys. They went with us. And I got to think it's a little bit of passion. So you said, what's the fitness part of that? Well, the passion is really maximizing human potential. And we're really, really serious about that. So even though I'm still that skinny dudes got to lift weights too, right? You got to deadlift, you got to do some pull-ups, you got to do some incline press, right? Yep. And I've always been infatuated with greatness, and I'm interested in everything. So, like for example, last night I was up until 4 a.m. reading a book on the gut-brain axis and dysbiosis. In other words, when you have too many French fries, you have bad fuel. You can create leaky gut. That can lead to, cognitive dysfunction. So in other words, the author, and the researchers, who are behind that and researching the gut microbiome and the influence of various foods on the brain, the whole gut microbiome, like I don't just enjoy it, like I'm enthralled by it. And I'm really, really, inspired by people who just care that much. Well, when you're deadlifting 600 pounds or something like that and the bar is bending, in the exact same way, I'm really, really inspired by people who really are that intense to get in there and do that. When it's uncomfortable and it's heavy and you don't want to do it, and that's when you go harder, like I enjoy that. Someone who's trying to get to, let's say, 6% body fat, that, I really and genuinely is inspired, and I want to talk to that person because I feel like it's greatness in many parts of your life that lead to that singular greatness. Yes, we're talking about 6% body fat, but there are a number of things that you got to do to get there, like discipline. Just flat out effort. And I'm really inspired by just effort. That's all I really care about in this business, is that you can succeed or fail. I'm cool with that. But I'm not okay with a lack of effort because I can't train effort, but I can train, about, what leucine does.
Skills.
I can train skills, but I can't train effort. So that was a long-winded answer for, man, now we're here today and we truly are looking at ingredients all the time to maximize human potential. We believe that like high glycemic carbohydrates don't in the mass market, lead to, maximize human potential. For example, we feel like it's highly specialized. We're not really in that market. So we would never launch a high glycemic carbohydrate, though someone might be into it, right? And it might be good for that person at that one time. We're really going for things that would, be adaptogenic, like Pico 2, and lead to, greater endurance and greater power. Or Go BHB, who's, someone who's looking to support an intermittent fasting regimen, or T-Creen, because I really believe in the power of dopamine in terms of mood and motivation. If you've ever tried just a regular pre-workout and then tried one with like T-Creen or Dynamine or both, I don't know what you feel like, but it is night and day. Like it's like that motivation it's really funny because people talk about like beast mode, for example, and you can be a skinny dude feeling like you're King Kong in the gym because of like that dopamine agonism. Like you're just like, it's just super, super cool and motivating. So that's where we are today. Hopefully that was enough context and didn't bore everyone to death right there.
I want to back up a little bit because I really, I'm particularly interested in, I'm sure the listeners are as well, where the actual seed gets planted. So Compound Solutions, obviously you guys are, in the ingredients business, and you started, with performance sports, and then college, you got into, the weightlifting side of things. At what point did it kind of, I guess, click? And you said, there's some things I can be ingesting, some things I can be putting in my body that's actually going to help increase my performance or help me achieve my goals. At what point does that, because you're very early on in sports supplementation. I mean, your own journey. You're talking late 90s, early 2000s, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
in
exactly.
College. So that's very early on in the industry.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? When like sports supplements weren't around. Now you go into the gym, everyone's having BCAAs, pre-workout, so it's there. But back when you were doing that, you would have been one of the first. Yeah,
it was. I wish I could say I was like a really smart guy, but I have a stupid story. Hopefully, you guys will laugh about how ridiculous it is. So I would just bonk, right? I mean, skinny because my metabolism is like a damn hummingbird.
Yeah.
So working out for an hour, I mean, I go from like 0 to nothing really, really fast. Like I need food, And so to the point where every time I worked out, I would just feel like trash when I walked out. Like people got a high, I got a low.
Yep.
But I didn't realize until I took a Snickers beforehand. And Snickers was like, it was money. Like I was like, my God, like I'm King Kong again. Like I'm back. Like I'm amazing, man. I'm there. And then I realized, wow, maybe it wasn't, Snickers. It was just the fact that I actually had fuel. I was just burning through calories at an ungodly rate. And then after that, I realized, gosh, I could take branch chains, things of that sort. So I started getting into, the stuff that we had around, very, very early on, proteins and branch chains basically is really what we're talking about. And I started just supplementing with that. So the actual genesis was just bonking, just absolutely feeling like trash, having some food and realizing, man, I don't have to, get diabetes while I work out. I could actually just have some branch chains and stuff like that. So
sure.
That's how it all happened.
So almost kind of out of frustration, I guess.
Yeah.
You were looking for a solution.
Yeah. Just necessity.
Even better.
Yeah. Necessity. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I love hearing, this is magical for me because this is like grassroots of sports supplementation.
Yeah.
Back I mean, back when you're right, but when we first started, that was it. It was protein powders and BCAAs and
that was
and
it.
creatine. Pretty much.
Exactly.
Now we have all these amazing ingredients that do all these different things. But back at the grassroots level, that was it was Snickers bars or protein powder.
Yes. And then it got like really sophisticated with like a bar. Like a bar, not a good one, just a bar.
Yeah.
So I started hitting those as well.
Mm-hmm. And then so you briefly touched on where the business side came in. College, post-grad. You said that you did an MBA.
Mm-hmm.
Where did that drive, I guess, come from to go into business? You said your father started Compound Solutions,
right.
But some people, I guess, kind of have an entrepreneurial streak, so to speak, and want to go into business, whereas other people, want to get a job and kind of work for somebody else. Where was that seed planted with you?
I was in business school and it was a little zero sum. Mm-hmm. I win, you lose. It was kind of, alpha male sort of stuff, and that was all good, but it was like braided belts talking about your golf game, and frankly I didn't care. Mm-hmm. And I just thought, man, when Dial Soap came to recruit at the school and I realized I couldn't care less about soap, I thought, man, I got to do something different. Mm-hmm. But man, I needed a job, right? Mm-hmm. Like you can't just pontificate about what you don't want to do. At some point you have to make a decision on what you do want to do. Yep. So I literally sat back and just brainstormed the most easy one, which is, what the hell do I want to do? And I thought, what do I like? And I like beer and sports. Uh-huh. So I literally got an internship with Miller Brewing Company. Okay. And I was going to go and do that until my dad said, hey, why don't you come work for me? He was the kind of dad who, wanted you to work 3 times harder for half the wage. Yep. So it's good, I think the kid who gets a job because daddy got it for him is the kid who should get, or kind of, I don't know, gets beat up on the playground, right? Kind of egotistical, kind of entitled, kind of drives you nuts. So it's kind of good to be like, hey, look, thanks for coming, but you're going to sit in the lab and make mediocre beverages for a long time and search PubMed for 300 hours before you get to sell anything. Mm-hmm. So then, I started making, 50, 60, 70 calls a day, just hardcore, getting into the business. But really, I would say I don't say I was like inspired per se to take the entrepreneurial tack. Mm-hmm. I think it was really just looking at what I liked, again, beer and sports. Mm-hmm. Started talking with my dad, nutraceuticals. I didn't want to just jam something into someone's hand into consumer goods because I just needed a job. Mm-hmm. I don't know, profit with purpose, I guess. So I started working for my dad, as I told you, here at Compound Solutions, and then I started looking for a vision. Mm-hmm. Like we were selling like joint supplements and things of that sort, which again, glucosamine and chondroitin isn't sexy. Mm-hmm. I didn't really care, frankly, mm-hmm. and it was money without a soul. Sure. And that's when I started kind of thinking about like sports and sports performance and the passion and mm-hmm. like truly maximize human potential. Mm-hmm. So then I got into, beta-alanine, and then I got into T-cream, and then dynamine and Go BHB and VasoSix and Pico-2 and things of this sort. And so now it's not just about that. It's about a gardening initiative we call the Pharmacy Initiative with an F, mm-hmm. For like farm and pharmacy, as in the Pharmacy Initiative, because we really believe in supplementing tomatoes, not French fries. Mm-hmm. So yes, we're going to have certain ingredients that do help you deadlift more or give you a little kick of motivation or mm-hmm. energy. Mm-hmm. But we also want to make sure that we give back and, plant some gardens for some kids so that the diabetes epidemic is reversed, mm-hmm. and that it's on us to do that, because we believe that we are the ones here responsible for this change. Mm-hmm. That we are who we need. Mm-hmm. That they aren't the responsible ones. We are the responsible ones. So that's what we're doing. Maximize human potential, both on the ingredient side and on the food side.
I'm interested to delve a little bit deeper into the point where I guess you started working for Compound Solutions. Your dad was running the company, more into not sport supplements, a bunch of other stuff. And you've kind of come in and you've got this interest and this passion in increasing performance from a sport supplementation perspective. How did that transitional period go down? You know, obviously I'm guessing by what you've told me about your father, probably pretty strong-minded.
Yeah.
Pretty stubborn.
Yeah.
Business is going in one direction. And then you've come in and you're like, I want to take it in another direction.
Yeah.
How did that kind of go down?
Well, he definitely was skeptical, but he was an amazing person. Like, yes, skeptical, yes, hard, but also, you know, really open, you know, incredibly kind and, you know, simply a good person. So as long as I got my job done, kind of like, you know, provide your reasoning, right? And it doesn't have to be on company hours, right? I mean, you can bust rear for 40 hours and then do the other 40, you know, proving that sports is the way to go. So I did, you know, work 60, 80 hours, like just do that for the next, you know, decade. Work 80 hours, see what happens. But not 80 hours because you're putting in FaceTime, but 80 hours because you actually are literally grinding out every single minute of that 80 to make it work. And yeah, you know, you don't have to like convince anyone of everything. You just have to do it. So the first thing was just like, hey, look, how about we go into sports? Here's a growth that I'm seeing. What do you think? Well, you know, on your own time, rock and roll. So I was like, all right, let's do it. And he had a really good friend, Mark Ledoux from Natural Alternatives, literally at a Denny's, which for your audience is just kind of a diner, I guess, very lowbrow, not esoteric in any way. Think bacon and eggs. And literally the stereotype is that you cut deals on napkins. Actually, it's true. Literally on a physical napkin, he was like, okay, well, the cost is this, you know, the price should be Y, you know, we'll split this, you know, have, you know, a certain fund allocated to, you know, marketing and legal and R&D and blah, blah, blah. And I was young and, you know, I looked young as well. I looked like, you know, Doogie Howser, you know, so he was kind of like pat me on the head, let him go, like see if Barry's son, my father's name is Barry. So yeah, you know, let's see if Barry's son can do anything. He's only 1,000 kilos a year. What do I have to lose? Yeah. See if this kid can do anything. So he's let me go. And so did my dad. So kind of on my own time, I would, you know, make a bunch of calls trying to make beta-alanine happen in the industry. And yeah, you know, give it 8 years and travel around the world and call 50 to 60 people a day, you know, work 80 hours, you know, work on, you know, researching PubMed a couple 100 hours, you know, and things happen, right? Just effort. That's what it was.
Get out what you put in, right?
Yeah, man, not science, just effort.
Yeah. This transitional period. So you've gone carnosine beta-alanine. You've started with 1,000 kilos a year. You've put in work. You're starting to see that come back and return. But this is still very early on in the sports supplement piece, right? In terms of the whole industry.
Very.
Right?
Yeah. It's when NO Explode was starting to get legs.
BSN first, you know, was first doing, you know, I remember NO Explode quite vividly because it was my first pre-workout that I ever took.
Yep.
So then where do you go from there? What happens next, right? You've got this one ingredient, you're selling, you know, in the big scheme of things, not really that much, but at the time it was, you know, it was a fair bit of one very specific sports supplement ingredient. Right. What then happens? Like, what's the next step for Compound?
So the next step is there was and is a patent on beta-alanine, believe it or not. And so I had to convince people who had been using it to switch, which was difficult because they'd been using it and they thought, you know, how in the hell can you patent beta-alanine?
So companies were using beta-alanine but not properly.
Not properly, and not the patented version.
So they were breaching intellectual property.
They were breaching. So that was a tough conversation, right?
Yeah,
it was kind of like, go to hell, I hate you. I mean, it wasn't pretty at all, right? Like, it was tough. And so again, to reiterate my appreciation for those behind NO Explode, they signed off on accepting the intellectual property, and we bandwagon it. Look, I mean, it's a badass pre-workout. Why don't you do it too? So we bandwagon that and said, like I said, it's good. You should too. Well, I also had, really good support from our partners legally. So obviously we didn't go that direction, right off. I mean, this is not the right approach to do business, right? It's really just trying to create a value proposition, to have a decent relationship, and be a good person.
You want businesses to work with you because they want to work with you, right? Not because they have to.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think, if you went out and talked to all the people that, we did business with early on, I think they would say that, I was, a decent person, in the approach, of saying, hey, look, there's some IP here. Can we, work out a deal to work together? And yes, we did get a lot of buy-in, thank God. And again, much appreciation to all those people who supported us. And yes, our partners did have legal battles for years, along with, against some of the major players in the industry. So again, I appreciate our partners for enduring that. I mean, it was millions. They didn't just spend $1,000. I'm talking like $7 million. That's legit money. And sure, we had a legal fund, absolutely. For every kilo that we sold, there was that, and we contributed to it as Compound Solutions. Sure, but the fact is that they were tough as nails and really defended the patent. And you don't always have partners who do that. So much respect to all those people who supported us on both sides. One little last shout out, Roger Harris. He's the guy who originally got the patent. And Roger Harris was the guy, along with others, and by the way, there are other people on the patent, but Roger Harris is the guy who brought creatine to the market. And that was through EAS many, many years ago. And people, can shout out, Anthony Almada and Ed Bird and all these other guys. And again, I just want to say, props to Roger Harris for being the pioneer. And, I feel like, part of the money that we have today, is because of Roger. So my success is part Roger, part NEI, part NO Explode, part, Arnold Schwarzenegger for making the industry. So anyway, little shout out to those guys for making us who we are.
All the dots joining together, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so then where do we go from carnosine beta-alanine? What's the next ingredient? Where do you spawn out to next?
Yeah, so I think it was Supply Side West, and if I can name names, I was passing Sean Wells, and he's like, hey man, good to see you. We hadn't seen each other. He'd been working at Dymatize, and he said, gosh, you should look at this new ingredient. And it's from some guys, Hector Lopez and Tim Ziegenfuss. I saw their data, and it was a dopamine agonist, and it was T-Creen. I was super, super, enthusiastic because of this dopamine agonism. It wasn't just an adenosine inhibitor like caffeine is, and that dual action was super interesting to me. I was enthralled. So we went to the next level, which is, would you be interested in distributing our ingredient? Well, they had 10 other suitors. We beat out those other 10, and kind of like the rest is history. It went into Nutrabolt, which is now C4. Got into Dymatize and Muscle Farm, and it's in most major sports companies in the world now. I'm grateful to say, and now it's kind of making its way into nootropics, energy drinks, things of this sort. So T-Crean's in more than 200 SKUs and really kind of taking off in many, many different areas. Then after T-Crean, I believe we got involved with keto. I think that was the next space that we got involved in, because low carb was a mega trend and is a mega trend. You know, keto may come and go. We'll see. The actual word keto, but low carb isn't. You know, we've had 30 years of too high, you know, maybe 40 years of, you know, carbohydrate-laden diets, thanks to Ansel Keys manipulating studies. And it's our job to have the next 30 years of protein and carbs. Protein and fat. So what's part of that? Well, keto. So we got involved with that with Go BHB. And that is, again, beta-hydroxybutyrate. But then we really are starting to launch some of the fats. So not just MCT, but think of other fat powders. So, you know, avocado, macadamia nut, you know, CLA, things of this sort. Then that was probably 3 years ago. Then about, I would say 2 years ago, somewhere, maybe a year and a half ago, was VasoSix. And that was really kind of the genesis of that was really looking for something that wasn't just nitric oxide based, but, you know, something that would actually like relax veins, you know, endothelial dependent relaxation. It was patented. And so you look at right now this industry that has vasoconstrictor in caffeine, but a vasodilator in nitric oxide. How do you reconcile those two? Those two stories. It's our job to reconcile those two stories, and VasoSix is that reconciliation, and we're going to post that. We're going to post that content. Right around this time was Pico 2, and that is fantastic because we've always believed in adaptogens. You know, adapting to physical and mental stress has always been, I feel like, kind of like the cutting edge of, you know, sports nutrition, right? Like everything from like a rhodiola to a curcumin to a ginseng, ashwagandha, and now Pico 2, which is cordyceps mainly. And the studies were remarkable. And the actual anecdotes, yeah, I mean, we can have clinical studies, but the actual anecdotes were insane. You'd have people like literally take 2 grams a day for 7 days, come back and like they deadlifted like 25 more pounds. Like not like 5, like 25, like 12 kilos. You're like, in a week? They're like, yeah. I mean, it was legit. It was incredible. We get incredible anecdotes of people like running more easily. Like literally heart rates are like the beats per minute. They actually like measure, come back, you know, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, and they're running faster with fewer beats per minute. Like, this is ridiculous. So right around the times of Pico 2, adaptogens, then you got like, you know, keto and Go BHB, VasoSix, all this sort of stuff is kind of happening at a similar time. And now, gosh, recently, maybe about a year ago, we started getting into CBD, so hemp oil, because we believe that, again, part of this whole system of, you know, maximizing human potential involves the immune system and the cognitive, you know, brain and body, you know, mind and body, let's call it. And the endocannabinoid system spans both. And CBD activates both the brain and the body, the immune system. And so really is what we're really talking about, again, is just maximizing human potential. And then you look for ingredients that fit that philosophy. As opposed to looking for an ingredient that make money, we're looking for an ingredient that fits the philosophy. And when it fits the philosophy, we believe we can make money at it. But it's not about making money. It's about making money for purpose. So we believe in it. We don't sell it if we don't believe in it. And that's where we are today.
So this has happened quite quickly, if I'm not mistaken, because my first kind of exposure to compound solutions, the first time that I heard about you guys was when T-Crean first came out. So 4 or 5 years ago, when there was this new ingredient, there was a particular brand that we were doing business with. We don't anymore, but back then we did. And the owner of this brand was showing me this new product that they had, and it had this ingredient, T-Crean, in it. And so he was telling me about T-Crean, and that was my first exposure to compound solutions.
Right.
So we're talking 2013, 2014. And then it just seems like you guys have just gone bam, with all these, the ones you just listed, plus many, many more, within, the last 4 or 5 years.
Right.
Why? What's caused that? Like how you were kind of cruising, and then you've just switched on the turbos in the last 4 or 5 years and just exploded. Right. Talk me through that.
Yeah. So maybe this gets to the business side. Yeah. You said fitness and business.
Definitely.
All right. So here's the business. So necessity is the mother of invention. Mm-hmm. And sometimes life kicks you in the ass, and sometimes you're disappointed, you feel entitled, and it's kind of a first world problem, in hindsight, but you really needed something to shock your world. And that was losing, beta-alanine. It was like, hey man, thank you for absolutely, crushing it for us. We made a ton of money, but go fly a kite. So we had to do something else. And you guys were distributing Carnison for the better part of 10 years? I would say somewhere around there, like 8 to 10, somewhere around that line. I can't remember exactly, but somewhere around, probably a minimum of 8, maximum of 10, but
good
probably somewhere around 8 or 9. And we were distributing a bunch of commodities and things of that sort. So branch chains, aminos, things of that sort, and that was cool. But maybe I was a little comfortable, right? And I wasn't who I was supposed to be. So when you're not who you're supposed to be, sometimes life kicks you in the ass when you don't kick yourself. So that was at the time that, the guys behind T-Creen presented T-Creen to us. And, one thing led to another. So as Carnison was exiting, we were entering T-Creen. But yeah, you don't want to be a one-hit wonder, right? So just just flat out effort, just relentlessness. I have 2 kids, I have a wife, what sort of role model are you to your kids? It's not rhetorical. Really, who do you want them to see? So, the one-hit wonder, do you want to leave a mark? Is there a vacuum when you leave? Or are you just some other distributor that, no one really cares about? So I want to be remembered, right? I want to be the one who, people want to work, for. I want to be the one who people want to work with, business. I want to be the one who is, the first ingredient supplier to generate consumer awareness for an ingredient, to have it pull off the shelves, actually have it add value to the actual brand. People buy cars, but they don't buy the tires, on the car. Yeah, it's tires, but is someone really infatuated with the tires? Maybe, but they're really buying the car. We want to make the tires so cool that it makes the brand or the product, the car, even that much more cool. So we really want to really make a difference on the ingredient side, something that no one's ever done. With various content, branding, things of that sort, but also with research. There's no other ingredient supplier of our size that I think has spent this amount of money with its partners on research. We're spending well over $1 million a year on research. We're a small company. People spend a lot more than that every day. This is nothing. If you're studying probiotics and you're a behemoth, they look at $1 million and okay, well, I call that Tuesday. We're small, right? We're barely over 20 employees, and so for us, that's a big chunk of change. And I again give much respect to our partners who feel the exact same way. They're paying for this too. This is not just our expense. Compound Solutions' expense. It's ours as partners. So just kind of a joint effort to go from kind of a one-hit wonder in beta-alanine and try to crush it with multiple ingredients and be a little bit more diversified over the last 3-4 years. We've literally 100% completely transformed the company to a commodity-based distributor, to very few commodities, if any, do we distribute anymore. Yeah, we've completely 100% changed the company over the last 3 years.
I love hearing this because, as often happens in business, you come up against challenges and you come up against, things that sometimes you can't foresee. And with the beta-alanine situation, obviously you couldn't foresee that. But I think it takes there's two ways you can react to something like that happening. I think, some people kind of, take it as a bit of a knockout and, get knocked out by it. And then other people, take it as a bit of a challenge and a bit of a hurdle and, can kind of feed off the energy that supplies, to take things up to the next level. And obviously you are the latter, Compound Solutions has been the latter, has taken that challenge, taken that situation of being uncomfortable and kind of used it to motivate you and motivate the business and really take the business into the next level. So, this is the first time that I've heard that I personally have always wondered, like, why in just the last short period of time has Compound Solutions exploded? And this is the answer right here is, you took that as motivation. Absolutely. and flipped it on its head, which is great to hear. Very inspirational from my perspective.
Yeah, we are absolutely relentless. You can punch us in the face as hard as you want, and we'll cry, and then we'll get up and break your arm.
That's what it's about.
But no, the reason why I say that and portray like that level of relentlessness is because this is what inspires us about the industry. Like I say that, like, it sounds kind of like maybe that sounded a little too brutal, maybe not the appropriate analogy. It was just basically saying that, we will get back up and we'll fight. But the reason it isn't just, about us, it's because, we see people like you who want to compete, and who are competing at the highest of levels. Like, how are we going to sit back and kind of like cruise when you are extending that level of effort? I just cannot see. And we cannot see these videos that are being posted on Instagram or see these guys up on stage and then just like not make the phone call, like not write the content, like show up late, leave early. Like it just seems too disingenuous. So maybe I didn't make the right analogy there. I'd maybe have a calmer analogy there. That was,
I love it, man.
But
keep the violent analogies flowing.
But that relentlessness, I don't want it to make it appear as if, it's about us. It's really about us looking at those in our industry and saying, man, if Arnold can do what he did, well, then at the very least, can't we extend just as much effort? Like, there's only one Arnold. We can't be Arnold, but damn, can't we try? That's why we've transformed in the last three years. And I think, my colleagues, feed off of that, and they, aren't sitting back either, right? It's not the Matt show. It's 20 to 25 other people. It's not my show at all. And so, kudos to those partners of ours internally who've helped kind of, get this thing off the ground and turn it into kind of a better content machine and a better ingredient supplier and a better partner and, make better people out of us all. Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about the innovation side of Compound Solutions and just to contextualize that a little bit. A lot of ingredient manufacturers, ingredient distributors aren't doing any sort of consumer education, consumer content, any of that sort of stuff, where you guys have really invested quite heavily in that side of the business. That's something that kind of caught my eye with Compound Solutions is you're doing a lot of content, written content, video content, audio content, hence the podcast we're doing right now. You guys are investing a lot in that side of the business where historically, ingredient manufacturers and ingredient distributors, I guess they haven't done that sort of consumer-centric piece. They've kind of focused on, I guess kind of how you started was, calling up the different brands and saying, this is what's up, we got these ingredients, and focusing on that side. Whereas you guys have kind of almost leapfrogged and gone, okay, look, the end consumers who are going to be consuming the products that contain our ingredients, they, I guess, are the focus of what we're doing. Those are the people who end up using the products and, enhance their performance and whatnot. What kind of made you innovate in this space within that context? Like what made you go, look, we need to start investing in this content piece when no one else is doing it.
Right.
You're the first, and I imagine now that there's going to be a lot of follow.
Yeah,
absolutely, because it's working for you.
Right.
But that it hadn't been done before. It was quite risky. You probably didn't need to do it.
Yeah.
Where did the motivation come from to do that?
Well, I think it was a lot of need. Yeah, we do spend more than everyone else doing this. Well, I can't say that. I'm not internally with other organizations, but let's just say we definitely spend a lot of money, doing this. But I think it was a need, right? I mean, sure, we could sit here and pontificate about, oh man, it was a great idea and we were first, but really it's probably someone who I bet someone just asked me like, hey, look, do you have information on that? Something really mundane. And we provided it. And then one thing led to another. I don't have a stark moment that's coming to mind, but I think part of it was probably just something really basic like that, really mundane. But also, we started with our partners on generating, clinical studies, spending a lot of money. We had to get generally recognized as safe status on T-Cream. Just the safety side was, maybe $500,000-$600,000, something just insane. And then, the efficacy on top of that was at least that. So now we got marketing on top of that. So, you're well over $1 million to launch this darn ingredient. At that point, you're like, you should probably tell people about it. I mean, if you're it's like buying a Maserati and parking it in the garage. You're like, I'll just drive my other car, you got to kind of tell people. So I wish I had a better story for you, but I think it was just literally people asking and then realizing that there's a massive dearth of content and people couldn't explain their product. Because brands wanted to do the brand thing, they wanted to market. Ingredient suppliers wanted to supply ingredients, meaning price and availability. Like, do you have leucine? Yes. What's the price? Really, really rudimentary.
Yep.
Marketers just wanted to put stuff in a bottle and put skulls and stuff like that on the pre-workout and sell it. And a contract manufacturer just wanted to put stuff in a bottle. So you had to kind of meld all those three and into something that was coherent. And so, we tried to be good partners to that the manufacturer. Like, how do you actually formulate with it? Like, how does it taste? Does it mix in water? What's its color?
Yep.
Just basics. And then you had to get with the brand and say, well, here's some messaging. Like, for example, we all know we've had a duopoly of beta-alanine and citrulline malate forever, right? A long time. All right, so what's the next one? Well, let's talk about that. Who's generating that content, and why would you end that duopoly? What is, a potential, alternative to that beta-alanine citrulline malate combo?
Yeah.
So, for example, VasoSix and Pico 2, for example. Someone's got to generate the content. Someone's going to have the ideas. Who's working with brands to do that, and who's working with contract manufacturers to flavor and sweeten to make it taste good. We're those guys. We're the guys who are, the glue between the brand and the manufacturer, who's usually flavoring and sweetening and bottling it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Filling the gaps.
We're the gap guys.
I think one of the most interesting things that I've noticed is not until probably I'm going to say 12 months. I'm going to say not until the last 12 months. And I've been in this industry since the early 2000s. And not until the last 12 months have I seen from the consumer side, from the retail side, customers now are actually looking for products that contain particular ingredients that aren't just, like forever people have said, oh, look, I want a pre-workout with beta-alanine in it, or I want a intra-workout with 2:1 ratio BCAAs, something like that. But now consumers are actually coming in and saying, I want a pre-workout with teacrine in it.
Right.
I want a keto supplement with Go BHB. I want a pump formula that has VasoSix. And I feel like, you guys, and this is where I get to the innovation piece, you guys have done an incredible job of actually getting to the end consumer and making them aware of these particular patented IP-protected ingredients that is now actually driving sales for a lot of these brands. Back when I first started, people would come in and they want a pre-workout from BSN. Right? That was the driving force.
Right.
Now it's, I want a pre-workout that has teacrine and dynamine in it.
Right.
And I don't really care what brand it is. I have heard about those ingredients. I know what they do, and that's what I'm looking for in my products. Or I want a keto supplement with 5 grams of BHB salt of Go BHB in it.
Right.
I don't care what brand it is. That's the ingredient I'm looking for.
Right.
And I feel like you guys have been, very much responsible for that change in consumer trend and really driving consumer education from that perspective, which I think is very, very cool. Like I said, I've never seen it in the industry before. So, even though I think you've kind of shortchanged yourself a little bit where you said it kind of came out of necessity, a lot of things come out of necessity, but there's a difference between kind of recognizing it and actually acting on it.
Right.
And I think that, you guys taking the conscious decision to act on it and, whether you foresaw that this would kind of be the end result or not, that's kind of how it's ended up, and it's very cool, from my perspective to see it.
Yes.
To see you guys driving that.
Right. So I'd be remiss if I didn't say my colleagues are driving a lot of this. It's true. I generate personally a lot of the content, but we work with several partners, and my colleagues are driving a lot of that to the consumer and through brands. So it's not me by any stretch. Number 2, I got to mention the brands as well. So yes, we are helping, but again, we're partners, and the brands are doing a lot with what we're providing. So yes, we are doing our best, and we'd like to think that we're, doing a good job. But we also have to, let the brands or let your listeners know that the brands are also helping convey this material to the market as well. So I would say it's a concerted effort on multiple parts. It's not just coming, from my brain to the consumer. It's actually, colleagues and brands and true partnerships to generate content that really enhances the customer's awareness of what's being ingested,
of course,
and creating really kick rear formulas, right? Like it's not, you don't want smoke and mirrors. You want stuff to actually lift weights, performance, just actual, run faster, jump higher, lift more weight sort of stuff. So, I'd just like to say, we are really, really trying. So I appreciate the recognition, but also it's many people along this this path, and I would say, namely, my colleagues and the brands are working well together.
Absolutely, Matt. What's next for Compound Solutions?
Man,
I know it's a loaded question, but what's next? You've had an incredible run the last 5 years. What does the next 5 years look like? What does the next 10 years look like? What are the grand plans? What's the vision?
Yeah, here it is. And my colleagues are looking at me right now like, okay, here it comes. Here it comes. So this is the curveball. Here's the curveball. Yes, we have more ingredients in the pipeline. Absolutely. And from what what you've seen, we already have ideas on how to do what we're doing better. So over the next year, you're going to see, real effort along these lines that hopefully will keep us ahead of the competition. Because people will copy this model. So again, we do have plans for new ingredients. You're going to see them launch. We're going to get much, much better at content. And hopefully everyone likes it. So that's coming literally imminently. I would say within the next six months, we're going to have a couple new ingredients and some real cool things that the consumer and the brand will know. But frankly, over the next 5 years, the pharmacy initiative is where my heart is. I really believe that, it's our responsibility to leave the earth a better place than when we found it.
And this is pharmacy with an F, right?
It's pharmacy with the pharmacy initiative with an F for pharmacy. So we've already spent, I think last year, around $50,000 to, plant gardens in schools, swing sets, things of this sort. We're going to do the same this year with more gardens, and then try to agglomerate all of this information that might be in, a YouTube video here, Sunset magazine there about gardening and everything else, and really create the Khan Academy of gardening. And I don't know if you guys know Khan Academy, but it's Khan, Sal Khan, one of my idols. He created kind of an educational website, khanacademy.org, that has all kinds of science and history and things of that sort. Well, do that for gardening, because we believe that when you are proximate to an issue, when you are close to an issue, you care. Well, the earth is obviously near and dear to everyone. Water, ask people in Australia, water is obviously near and dear to Australians, but it's also near and dear to we here in Southern California. We've had droughts just like you guys have had. So when you are sticking your hands in the earth and you have a bountiful harvest, call it tomatoes or squash or whatever it may be, you're proximate, you're close, and you end up having children teach parents how to eat. So we believe that it is our responsibility to both, leave children in a better spot, health-wise, leave Earth in a better spot, and to leave the entire country and the globe in a better spot financially. We cannot have the chronic diseases that we have today and be financially responsible or financially balanced. X minus Y is a negative number. What we're taking in versus going out is a negative number. We can't get heart disease and diabetes at this rate. So it's, in my opinion, my personal responsibility to your children and your listeners' children to give everything I have every day to make more gardens and supplement tomatoes, not French fries. So that's honestly maybe not what the listeners were thinking about, but this is the truth. This is what we're passionate about, and this is the vision for the company. We're going to use compound solutions as the tool to change human nutrition.
I think that's very cool. It's very cool, starting with the with the seeds in performance supplementation ingredients, and kind of taking that very niche market and spreading out, to the market, the entire market. I think is a very noble vision. Yes, very cool to hear.
Yeah, well, we hope it goes from noble to implementation.
Of course, of course.
Yeah, because I would prefer to be completely unknown and no one care, as long as we could get gardens and get proximate to the issue. So hopefully it goes from, like I said, hopefully it works. Yeah. Let's do it.
Well on your way.
Let's rock and roll.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Matt, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. I'm sure the listeners have enjoyed hearing your story, right from the grassroots fitness times business to where Compound Solution fits in, the journey of the business, what's planned next. Very, very insightful and inspirational podcast. So thank you. I appreciate your time.
Cool. Likewise, I appreciate your interest.
Thanks, Matt.
See you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Massive Joes Show. Make sure you subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform, whether it be SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube, Podbean, Stitcher, or TuneIn. And if you enjoyed listening to this episode of the Massive Joes Show, ensure that you give us a 5-star rating on your favorite podcasting platform. Until next time, we're coming to you from MassiveJoes.com.